कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा, जय प्रभुपदा। प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। नमो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदा भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की, भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, अंतर मायापुर धाम की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, समावेद भक्त वृंद की जय। गौ प्रेमानंदे ऑल glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Guru and Gauranga. So today we are going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 2, and it's text number 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter number 2, Text number 20. Tatheva chanye naralokavira Tatheva chanye naralokavira Ya ahave Krishna mukharavindam Ya ahave Krishna mukharavindam Naitre pibantu nayabhiramam Naitre pibantu nayabhiramam Parthasraputah padmapurasya Parthasraputah padmapurasya Tatheva chanye naralokavira Ya ahave Krishna mukharvindam Netre pibanto nayanabhiramam Partha saputa padmapurasya. Tatheva chanye naralokavira Ya ahave Krishna mukharavindam Naitre pibanto nayanabhiramam Parthasraputa padmapurasya. So we will be reading the word-to-word translation. Tatha, as also, evacha, and certainly, anye, others, naraloka, human society, viraha, fighters, ye, those, ahave, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Krishna, Lord Krishna's, Mukh Arvindam, face like a lotus flower, Naitre, with the eyes, Pibantah, while seeing, Nayanabhiramam, very pleasing to the eyes. Partha, Arjuna, Astraputaha, purified by arrows. Padam, abode. Apuha, achieved. Asya, of him. Yeah. So, translation by Srila Prabhupada. Certainly, others who were fighters on battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjuna's arrows, and while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abode of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, appears in this world for two missionary purposes: to deliver the faithful and annihilate the miscreants. But because the Lord is absolute, His two different kinds of actions, although apparently different, are ultimately one and the same. His annihilation of a person like Shishupal is as auspicious as his actions for the protection of the faithful. All the warriors who fought against Arjuna, but who were able to see the lotus-like face of Lord on the battlefield, achieved the abode of the Lord exactly as the devotees of the Lord do. The words pleasing to the eyes of the seer are very significant. When the warriors from the other side of the battlefield saw Lord Krishna at the front, they appreciated his beauty, and their dormant instinct of love of God was awakened. Shishupal saw the Lord also, but he saw him as his enemy, and his love was not awakened. Therefore, Shishupal achieved oneness with the Lord by merging in the impersonal glare of his body called Brahma Jyoti. Others who were in the marginal position, being neither friends nor enemies, but slightly in love of Godhead, by appreciating the beauty of his face, were at once promoted to the spiritual planets, the Vaikunthas. The Lord's personal abode is called Golok Vrindavan, and the abode where his plenary expansion reside are called the Vaikunthas, where the Lord is present as Narayana. Love of Godhead is dormant in every living entity, and the entire process of devotional service unto the Lord is meant for awakening this dormant eternal love of Godhead. But there are degrees of such transcendental awakening. Those love of God is awakened to the fullest extent go back to Golok Vrindavan planet is the spiritual sky, whereas persons who have just awakened the love of Godhead, accident or association are transferred to the Vaikuntha planets. Essentially, there is no material difference between Golok and Vaikuntha, but in the Vaikunthas, the Lord is served in unlimited opulence, whereas in Goloka, the Lord is served in the natural affection. This love of God is awakened by the association of pure devotees of the Lord. Here, the word Partha Shastra Putaha is significant. Those who saw the beautiful face of Lord on battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified first by Arjuna. When he made his onslaught with arrows, the Lord appeared for the mission of diminishing the burdens of war, and Arjuna was assisting the Lord by fighting on his behalf. Arjuna personally declined to fight, and the whole instruction of Bhagavad Gita was given to Arjuna to engage him in the fight. As a pure devotee of Lord, Arjuna agreed to fight in preference to his own decision, and thus Arjuna fought to assist the Lord in his mission of diminishing the burden of the world. All the activities of the pure devotees are executed on behalf of Lord, because a pure devotee of the Lord has nothing to do for his personal interests. Arjuna's killing was as good as killing by the Lord himself, as soon as Arjuna shot an arrow at an enemy, that enemy became purified of all material contaminations and became eligible to the transfer to the spiritual sky. Those warriors also appreciated the lotus feet of the Lord and saw his face at the front, had their dormant love of God awakened, and thus they were transferred at once to Vaikuntha Loka, not to the impersonal state of Brahmajyoti as was Shishupal. Shishupal died without appreciating the Lord, while others died with appreciation of the Lord. Both were transferred to the spiritual sky. But those who awakened to love of God were transferred to the planets of transcendental sky. Uddhava seemingly lamented that his own position was less than that of warriors on battlefield of Kurukshetra, because they had attained to Vaikuntha, whereas the remained to lament the disappearance of the Lord. So this is a very beautiful verse, very long explanation about the verse also. But here, as soon as we start reading, that two missionary purposes of Lord, to deliver the faithful and to annihilate the miscreants. Anybody think of Bhagavad Gita, any verse, particular verse? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmyanam srujamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. You should read this and you should remember this, because it's very, very important why Krishna came here to this material world, right? One lady in Westchester, I used to do all these karmakand pujas, which gives you something. Prabhupada never appreciated this, but somebody has to do that, and I was doing it for my living. So lady in Westchester, she asked me to do the puja, and I said, okay, now Mataji, what do you want? She said, I want to live 5 years. 5 years? Why you want to live 5 years in this material world? Padam padam vipadam is so miserable. You want to live 5 years? That's our feeling about the material world. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati just says that this is like a toilet place. How much time you spend in the toilet, right? 5-10 minutes, that's it, right? You do your work and get out of here. The human birth is given so that you can get out of the cycle of birth and death. You can go back to Godhead. You serve that purpose, do devotional service and get out of here. Don't want to stay even 1 minute here, he says. You don't need to, decorate the toilet and have sofa and TV set and, all the speakers and all that. No, you don't do that in there. So similarly, we don't look for any facilities. We don't want to be very comfortable in this place. We should be getting out as soon as possible, right? So here, God has only two purposes: to deliver the faithful and to annihilate the miscreants. But because the Lord is absolute, His two different kinds of actions, although apparently different, are ultimately one and the same. His annihilation of person like Shishupal is as auspicious as his actions for protection of the faithful. So they say that we already discussed the other day about how many people were on the battlefield. So they go by Akshani Sena. So many military units were there. So 7 were on Pandava's part and 11 were on the Kaurava's part. And you can always, how many horses were there, how many camels were there, and elephants were there, chariots were there, people walking on the foot were there, people riding in the horses and fighting, all kind of things, put together. There are millions of people, on the battlefield. And they say they all went back to Godhead. Anybody fought against Arjuna or with Arjuna, they all went back to Godhead. And the reason was simply by looking at the lotus face of Lord Sri Krishna. While seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abode of the Lord. So, what is so special about looking at the face and getting the benefits? So, I was reading the Padma Puran, in which it says, Vinashayati apayasho buddhim, vishadayati api, pratishtha payati prayo, nunam vaishnava darshanam, nunam vishnu darshanam. So, once infamy is destroyed just by looking at the pure Vaishnava. Infamy is the worst thing. When you discredit or whatever, disqualifications, when you add up, when it comes to infamy, that's the worst thing can happen to a Kshatriya. But once infamy is destroyed just by looking at the pure Vaishnava, what to speak of looking at Vishnu himself? So, when you see the face of a devotee, you are benefited, right? All your infamy is gone. But when you look at the Vishnu, what to speak of it, right? It purifies and expands one's intelligence and increases one's prestige. So, infamy is gone, but again, you gain the prestige at the same time. So, this is what it is. Just simply by looking at the face of Krishna, we can achieve all these things. Bhakti Charu Maharaj used to sing a wonderful song, and it goes like this. Adharam madhuram vadanam madhuram nayanam madhuram hasitam madhuram radayam madhuram gamanam madhuram madhuradipatya rakhilam madhuram vachanam madhuram charitam madhuram vasanam madhuram valitam madhuram. Madhuram means sweet. So, what the song is that right from the crown all the way to the lotus feet, or from lotus feet to crown, whatever you see, anything you see about Krishna is word by word defined and says sweet. You don't have to repeat when you say it is sweet. This is sweet, this is sweet. Every time you don't want to use that word. But here, the beauty of this particular composition is the crown is sweet, the flute is sweet, his eyes is sweet, his nose is sweet, his ears are sweet, his earrings are sweet, So everything that's called sweet, 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 sweet. And Madhuradipate, Madhuram, Madhuram. The sweetest thing in this world is Krishna. So, when you look at that kind of face, then naturally you are liberated. Now, in what sense you are liberated? So, here I read further explanation. Moksho Visha Vairagyam Bandho Vishayiko Rasaha Eta Vadeva Vijnanam Yathechasi Tatha Kuru. What it means? That detachment from sense gratification is liberation, and engagement in sense gratification is bondage. This is actual knowledge. Now one can do as he likes. So it defines that it's not that you have to die and go here and this planet, that planet, and ultimately make it back to God and all that, They say right here at this moment, if something when you see, if it can make you detached to this material world, right? All your sense gratification. It can make you go away from that. That is actually a going back to Godhead, or that's a liberation. But it's something, someone you see, and all your senses are excited, you want to get it, you want to grab it, that's a bondage. So this is the difference. When you see something, it can do two things, Either it will relieve you from this material bondage, and it will make you free from bondage altogether. That's a liberation. It can give you liberation. Or you may be already liberated, and still you may get into the material things. There is a story. Is that one street is there. There is one house here, and there is one house there, and the road in between. Now, this way, a sannyasi lives, saffron clothes, and people come and get the advice and all that. And on that house, a prostitute lives. Now, whenever there is nobody around, the sannyasi goes at the window and looking out, and he sees the prostitute. And there is a line of people, they come and enjoy the sing and dance, and And the prostitute, whenever she has a time, she looks and she says, oh my God, the sannyasi is so fortunate. She look, the people are lined up to listen to him. He gives the advice. All the time I see him worship this, that. And the sannyasi is seeing the prostitute is all the affairs. So when they die, they say, okay, you go to hell, you go to heaven. The sannyasi says, I'm advanced, I'm spiritual, I'm a sannyasi, I'm renounced. He said, all right, but what did you do? Your mind was into prostitute. All the affairs that a prostitute is doing, we are watching and we are thinking and you are getting excited. Whereas she used to lament, what kind of birth I have, that I have to go into this mess. Look at sannyasi, right? So this is the difference. That something when you see can either relieve you from this bondage or it can bind you. So this is the definition. Again, when we go further, it talks about Krishna's glance or darshan and compares with Arjuna's arrows. So in Mahabharata, there is a story, and it says that Krishna knew everything, Krishna was the one who operated this whole thing, and naturally he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't want anything to go wrong. So there was a demon. That demon was so strong that he himself can fight and win. But he's a demon. He doesn't know who is Pandavas and who is Kauravas, who is good guy and who is bad guy, why this is there. But if you put him on the battlefield, he will kill everybody. He is so strong. So Krishna thought, we don't want this person. Number one, he is not qualified because he has no idea why he is fighting. He is fighting because he has strength. He has nothing else to do. Just kill, kill, kill. So we don't want somehow or other him sneaking in this battlefield. So he approached him and he says, see, something big is going on. I know you heard about it. You are also excited about it. Everybody is excited about it. But let me tell you one thing. He says, what you do, I request you to be part of it. Will make you comfortable, will give you a position where you can see this, what is going on the battlefield. But don't participate. So he says, okay, if you say so. He says, okay, come with me. So Krishna took him and he saw all over the battlefield and there was a very tall tree. And he said, I'm going to put it on the top of the tree. And you don't come down for 18 days and just watch. Don't get excited, don't come down and start fighting or anything. He said, okay. So they did that. finally, once the Pandavas won the game, they all came back to battlefield just to survey who is killed, who is not, how, just to realize. And they were walking with Krishna. And Bhima was very proud of his potency, and Arjuna too, and every Pandava and everyone that, those who have survived, they always seeking for some kind of credit. Or at least in their heart it was that I did this, I did that. That's the elephant I killed, that's the horse I killed, that's the man I killed, that kind of feeling. And finally, they came to one tree where that demon was there. So Krishna asked him to come down. So the demon came down, and demon says, I would like to ask you one question. So what question you have? And by the way, the Krishna also explained why the demon was there, and I had requested him not to participate, but just to watch. Like we go to watch the baseball game or football game, somebody gives you a ticket and you are in the balcony, you're sitting down, drinking your whatever glass of cold water, and then watching the game. Similarly, that's what he was doing up there. So he said, I got a question. He says, every time Arjuna shot the arrow, I saw another arrow along with Arjuna's arrow. Two arrows go together. And before Arjuna's arrow hit the person, this second arrow will hit and the person will die. And the Pandavas figure out what was that. Krishna is Yogeshwara. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna yatra parthor dhanular. Tatrashi vijo bhuti dhruvani tirmatir mamam. So he was there and he wanted to make sure that every arrow that Arjuna is shooting doesn't fail. And that's why when we see here Arjuna's arrow, Arjuna's arrow, Arjuna's arrow, it's for Krishna's arrow. Because that killed the person, and once Krishna's arrow kills you, you have to go back to Godhead. He takes you back. That's why he's killing you. So this is another thing linked with this, that they say it doesn't matter whether Arjuna killed him or Supreme Personality, space or darshan gave them liberation, but they were all liberated. Now, sometimes I see sannyasis and everybody, some senior devotees like Mataji and all that, it makes me a little nervous, because in Padma Purana it also says that Guru Agre Pruthak Puja Advaitam cha Parityajeta Diksham Vyaksham Prabhutvam cha Guru Agre Vivarjite. In the presence of the senior devotees, in the presence of sannyasis, right? You should not be speaking. You should not be accepting any kinds of clapping or, well done, or worship. You should not be giving any kind of initiation. You should not be demonstrating your ability. You must not give a lecture. All these things are said in the scripture. But the thing is that sometimes we have to do that. If you see this particular Bhagavatam, at the back page they have this picture, and even in the front. Like Shukadeva Goswami is speaking, and his father, Vyasadeva, right? He is right in front of him, if you see the picture. So it happens, and that's why we have to go along. But I respect our senior people, I respect the sannyasis and gurus, especially presence of Prabhupada, and still we have to actually talk about this. Now, we are talking about the liberation. King Kulashekar says, all the Mukti Devi stands at my doors with folded hands I do not desire her because that would destroy my devotional service to the Lord. Mukti Devi says, okay, what kind of liberation you want? Sayujya Mukti, Samipya Mukti, Salokya Mukti, right? Kaivalya Mukti, Sarsti Mukti, which one you want? Then Kulashekar says, no, I don't want anything. The reason that it will cut me off from my devotional service, right? Same thing I read in Ramayana, that Hanumanji says that Bhavabandhaj chide tasya spruyami na muktaye bhavan prabhu aham dasa iti yatra vilupyate. Hanumanji says, O Supreme Lord Rama, I do not desire liberation if it is going to destroy my awareness that I am your servant and you are my master. It's not difficult to remember, but still, once you are liberated, then it's easy to forget that relationship, that I am your servant and you are the master. So he said, that's why, please don't give me any kind of liberation, let's not even talk about it. So, this person that we just talked about, Kulshekar, is a very important in our sampradaya also. And it is said here that he had a dream, Kulshekar, he was a king, but he had a dream of Lord Shri Krishna, and all he saw was the beautiful face of Lord Shri Krishna. And at that time, he went into the spiritual trance, and he could not even figure out that there is a morning or evening or night or what it is. Finally, all the Gandharvas who were supposed to wake him up by playing music and praying all kind of prayers in the morning, they broke into his bedroom and woke him up. He woke up and he says, let me talk to you about my dream. I saw a so beautiful face, Lord Krishna's face. And it took away all my desires, material desires from me. And now I have decided I don't want to rule anymore. So he left his kingdom and he went to Ranganath and remained there. And here is a book that he wrote, the garlands to Lord Shri Krishna. Every verse that he has written, they are very magically written, so beautifully. And the merits that he is writing is unbelievable. Prabhupada recommends that we must be singing this particular book, not reading. So here is just one example we'll give. Bhattena jalinanatena shirsa Gatre saro mogmame Kantena swaragadgadena nayane No dignavam bambuna Nityam taccharanarvindayugala Jnanamruta swadina Asmakam sarasirusha satatatam Sampadyatam jivitam. So here it's translated, O lotus-eyed Lord, please sustain our lives as we constantly release the nectar of meditating on your lotus feet. With our palms praying, fully join, our heads bow down, our bodily hair standing up in jubilation, our voices choked with emotion, and our eyes flowing with tears. So he just doesn't want to just see, look at it and just get out of here. No. So many things is happening when he saw that particular face of Lord Shri Krishna. O lotus-eyed Lord, please sustain our lives as we constantly relish the nectar of meditating on your lotus feet. With our palms prayerfully joined, our heads bow down, our bodily hair standing up in jubilation, our voices choked up with emotion, and our eyes flowing with tears. So many things should happen. And the only example I think of is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So as soon as he went to Jagannath Puri, he experienced all this ecstasy. And so again, one more, he says here that he continues to say that I always think of Lord Hari, whose joyful lotus face bears a gentle smile. Although he is the son of cowherd Nanda, he is also the supreme absolute truth, worshipped by great sages like Narada. And here, Satsvarup Maharaj is asking us to think of two bhajans that we have in this song book. And one is the Bhajahu Raman Shri Nanda Nandanu Abhaya Charanaru Vindare, in which he says that when we live in forgetfulness of spiritual nature, even our so-called bliss is illusion. It is unsatisfying, flickering pleasure, chapala sukha. The poet Govindas expresses in this song, Bhajure Manam, what assurance is there in all one's wealth, youthfulness, sons and family members. This life is tilting like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore, you should always serve the divine feet of Lord Hari. Another Vaishnava poet, Narottam Das Thakur, has expressed his happiness of supreme in the song addressed to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More, in which Satsvarup Maharaj says, Ha ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Krupavalokan Karo Ami Bar Dukhi. My dear Lord Nityananda, Nitya Ananda, Nitya means always, Ananda is pleasure, always in good mood, not crying and in a bad mood. So that is a Nityananda. You are always joyful in spiritual bliss. Since you always appear very happy, I have come to you because I am most unhappy. Haha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Krupavalokana Karo Ami Barodaki. Ami, I am very unhappy. The only thing we can do when we are unhappy is go to somebody who is happy. If you don't have money, go to the person who has money. If you don't have a shelter, go to the person who has a shelter. Prabhupada wanted to build a house where the whole world can live. Whole world. Can you imagine? So many architects and engineers and so many infrastructures. Everything is, taken care in this world, right? But the only biggest project was to build a house where every living entity can live under one roof. That was a concept came from Srila Prabhupada. He wanted to build a house where everyone can live together, So, I have come to you because I am most unhappy. If you kindly cast your glance upon me, I may also become happy. So, this was this amazing book and amazing, instructions are there. Now, I was also reading one story about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur when he was a child. Bhakti Vinod Thakur took him with him, and he said, let's go to Purushottama Kshetra. I will show you that. So they started walking, and suddenly there was night time. There was no place to live. So they both took a shelter in a temple. And since he was a child, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he slept without any disturbance or anything. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was chanting. He had to, chant his rounds. So he waited. And suddenly there was big bangs on the doors. Somebody screaming, breaking the door, coming in, Every object started flying from the floor up in the sky. Even the stones started flying. The furniture started flying. This is amazing. I went to Baroda, and Bhakti Vikas Swami, I think, he had a program. So the president of Baroda, he took me, he said, let's go to the Krishna program. I said, that is beautiful. I came from America and I'm missing programs. So I went there. And there were 25,000 people. This is, I'm talking about India. No pandemic that time when I went there. 25,000 people, and Bhakti Vikas Swami randomly program. All of a sudden, the piano on the stage, I saw on the ceiling. It was a magical program. And people were just amazed. Next time I see him, I'm going to ask him, why don't you do it in America? But this is the kind of things I have seen with my naked eyes, that here, these jugglers or magicians or whoever called, the furnitures on the stage, they went all the way up to the ceiling. And people were taking movies and pictures and everything, And Hare Krishna, amazing experience. But that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is writing, that everything he saw flying in the sky. And he was amazed. He just kept chanting. And as the sun came out, everything calmed down. And the people explained, the village people, that there is a ghost here. You see, I felt so because it was making a lot of disturbance, when I was chanting, And they asked him, you are a Vaishnava, Param Vaishnava, and do you know what may be the reason? So he says, the pujari who used to serve the deity, right? The pujari, although he was serving deity, avahana, hasana, padya, argya, achmani, snana, vastra, upavita, gandha, pushpa, dupa, deepa, naivedya, tamula, lakshana, pradakshana, all the time you spend time there. But in your mind, anyabhilashi. He says the pujari was anyabhilashi. He had material desires. So Krishna granted him. And in a form of a ghost, he was enjoying all these things. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that this is not a very kind of easy position. You are pujari, you are directly touching and dealing with Krishna, and at the same time, when you are thinking of some material desire, some cheap things, you are throwing away the diamond and you are picking up a piece of glass. Yes, Krishna will give you a piece of glass, but you will end up being a ghost. So this is the story, So, there is so much to talk about this thing. And here, Chintiyami Harerem Satatam Mandahasam Ditan Ambujam, again going back to the King Kulashekara, is I always think of God Hari, whose joyful lotus face bears a gentle smile. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted the same thing. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, na kavitam va jagadisha kamaye. Mama janmni janmenshware bhavtat bhaktir ahetuki tvai. Right? You should not be expecting anything from Krishna, or you should not ahetuki. That's the kind of devotional service you should be performing. And Prabhupada every page is saying that. And what should be the message from that story I told you? Anya bhilashita shunyam gnana karmadi anavrutam anukulena krishnada shilanam bhakti uttamam. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that your service should be free from desire of sense enjoyment. Don't do something so that you can gain something out of it. It should be free from mental speculation. It should be free from attempts to attain fulfillment through power and knowledge. Some people are competing, they want power, they want to be very knowledgeable so that they can argue and defeat others. Pure devotion is the favorable cultivation of service to Lord Sri Krishna. So these are some of the things I came across. Now, if you have anything, we can always discuss, because I don't think there's much time, but yeah, Prabhu. Why you always have a question?
Okay, so the question is, do demons can, by being enemies of Krishna, they can advance quicker than the bodies into the spiritual world? Can demons reach, let's say, the Vaikuntha planets quicker than the bodies by being demons, by being enemies of Krishna?
Yeah, yesterday Maharaj explained what happened to Shishupal, right? All these people that, like...
no, it's favorable, no unfavorable.
They merge into the Brahma, they go to Brahma Jyoti. They actually do not go back to Godhead. We are in a good position that at least we are not merging into body of Krishna, or we don't end up in the Brahma Jyoti. We go beyond Brahma Jyoti and we actually have a chance to serve Krishna. That's the difference,
Yes, no, the question is no enemy, unfavorable enemy, but more like a favorable enemy. Favorable enemy versus a devotee. So you say that sometimes it is unfavorable, but enemies, they can...
See, you to understand the whole story. Jai and Vijay, right? They were blessed even by Vishnu. And this, you offended these little children, right, who are very innocent. And they asked you, now you pay the price. So go to the material world. This is just a drama, that they came to this material world. They know that they are serving Vishnu, and they will keep serving Vishnu all their life, no matter whether demons or what, right? So they came to this material world. Now they are just acting as demons. They are serving. They say by doing and fighting against Vishnu, we will be liberated. Plus, the world will get a chance to know the pastimes of Krishna, right? So, there is one scripture which is known as Adhyatma Ramayana. Nobody has read that, but that was actually, people say that Vedvyas never wrote Ramayana, but it's not possible. Vedvyas, Maharishi Vedvyas didn't leave a single subject. So when you read the Adhyatmic Ramayana, he starts like this, like a Jai Vijay story. And then when you read, and when they become the Hiranyakshani, Hiranyakashipu, you have sympathy towards these people, right? Because you don't look them as a Hiranyaksha or Hiranyakashipu, but you see them as a Jai and Vijay. Next they come as Ravan and Kumbhakarna, but you don't look at them as Ravan and Kumbhakarna. Or you don't look up that's Dantavakra or Shishupal, all this. They are just paying the price for breaking the law and, suffering or whatever the curse was there, they had to spend the time on the material world. So they are spending the time. At the same time, they are always, it looks like that Kansa, was enemy, but Kansa knew that, this is his role. And that's why he has to not forget Vishnu, favorably or unfavorably. And that's what Prabhupada says. Think of Krishna and never forget him. That's the rule. So, if it's favorable or unfavorable, depending the assignment that you are given, I don't see anything wrong in that. Sometimes I read pages and pages about Duryodhana and I cry. He's a wonderful person. In Mahabharata, he describes so much about Duryodhana. He says, Janami Dharma.